thank you for joining us. Today we get to hear from a company that has made its mark as an innovator in its space. First, a little about Zendesk for those that are less familiar. Zendesk is a 12-year-old SaaS-based company coming from a customer service background. We build support, sales and customer service engagement products that help other companies create and deliver their own great customer experiences. For example, when you contact Sendle, you're talking to them through the Zendesk platform. Now, who is Sendle? Sendle is a 6-year-old Aussie born and bred startup. They've created an edge in their market through both being a software and a logistics company. Sendle was built to enable small businesses to thrive by making that door-to-door parcel delivery affordable and simple. They've grown from strength to strength, largely on the back of their ethos that their customers are their bee's knees, and it's at the heart of everything they do. A very humble statement that I love. So as they grow, and they're always focused on what is happening to their customers' experience. Today I have the privilege of speaking to Sendle's CMO and CCO, Eva Ross. Interestingly, the first Airbnb employee in Australia, so always looking for something new and exciting. With a digital and creative background, Eva's built a really incredible career focused on bringing her companies out to market. At Sendle, that remit expanded to include both the voice to the customer and the voice of the customer. And I think that blend must be a really unique experience and perspective to help sort of guide the business. So welcome, Eva. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Let's start with who Sendle is and sort of talking around that ethos of that customer experience.
Yeah, look, Paul Graham of Y Combinator talked about the idea of having 100 customers that love you rather than 1 million that just sort of like you. Yeah. And I love that idea because I think it really centers you in trying to get an emotional connection with your customer, understanding what their needs are and what really, really drives them. We did some customer surveys and found the brand archetype that most resonates is the idea of the explorer. And I just love that because it really speaks to the idea of the entrepreneur who's out there to go and do something new, take on a real challenge, maybe give up a job that they've previously hated and go out and do new things. And I think that our ethos from a support point of view is just to help them go and achieve all of that and realize all of that.
Perfect. And I think when I think about you're helping small businesses actually create the reality of what they've set out to do with their customers. And so I imagine that would create a lot of partnership and loyalty over time. Have you seen a shift in what they've needed from you over the last few months as COVID's had its unique challenges, almost certainly to their business and how they service their customer? What's that looked like for you? How have you pivoted with that?
Yeah, I mean, taking a step back, COVID has created the biggest change in e-commerce we've ever seen, right? Yes. I think the Bank of America did a study that showed over the last 8 weeks, the change in COVID is equivalent to the change in e-commerce over the last 10 years. So we're really seeing kind of that penetration of folks who are using e-commerce jump a decade. And with that kind of has come all of the support challenges and the training of small businesses and those challenges that we probably didn't really expect. I think one of the big things that we've really looked at is how we can help. Through the bushfires, a lot of customers in affected areas came to us for help, and we provided shipping credit and all sorts of things. Right. But at this time, it's been much more about telling their stories, providing them with resources, kind of taking them through how to get started, and being really a trusted advisor through all of those things.
And has it shifted? Because when you talk, and as I listen to that, what goes on in my mind is so that's happening to your front end customer. I imagine the challenges with some of your freight and logistics in the back end have been pretty significantly impacted, even if it's routing, time, all of those sorts of things, because you've got those two levels of partnership, sort of customer and supplier. How has that been affected? How have you needed to help them, the way they engage Sendle?
Yeah, we really do. I think I don't know if you found as well, but through COVID, the openness of people to partner was very different. Suddenly everyone was really interested and available, and I think they were just taking on new ideas and things they'd been thinking about but not quite proceeded with. And so our carrier partners were amazing. They would literally give us an update each day on who'd had a flu shot and who was going out that day,
Right.
Which was kind of lovely transparency for us.
Yeah.
But I think we went and broke all the comms rules. We sort of over-communicated with customers. We did things that would normally give you unsubscribes,
Right.
just because we wanted to keep people informed on what delivery routes were available,
Yep.
which international destinations we weren't able to deliver to, and any kind of delays, and so on and so forth.
Interesting.
Which kept everybody up to date.
Right, which is the important part. And in that, which channels were more effective for you? Like, how were you getting to your customer at that point?
Yeah, I mean, our content manager probably wouldn't be happy about this, but that blog post did the best that we've ever seen.
Right.
Just because everyone was constantly going and checking for information. I think we updated it every 12 hours
Okay.
at one point.
Yeah.
But we were getting that out through email. A lot of our support macros were connecting into that blog, and people kept really well informed through it.
Okay, interesting. And have you found the incoming queries from customers shift, but both either the sheer volume, the topics, or the channel they're using? How have you had to handle that change as you've had your own change? We'll talk about that work from home piece in a minute.
Exactly. Yeah. Initially, I think that everyone was just delighted that there was an essential service that was going to help get things done. Quite simply,
Right.
people worried about the viability of their business.
Yes.
And so actually inquiries dropped and our NPS was wonderful and all of those sort of carry-on things. But over time, I think with some of the delays and the changes in the network, people were more frustrated,
Right.
and that came through.
And the longer it goes on too.
Exactly. So we were using Zendesk Explore. We'd literally each morning have a game plan with support to say, what tickets are important, who's going after what, how do we resource our champs.
Okay, and so the data became really important to you.
Really,
And was that a
success.
daily triage process for you?
It was a daily triage process. I think we were interested in keeping first response time nice and low, but while maintaining quality. And so, a lot of the tools, Zendesk Guide was also super useful to make sure that people were able to self-serve through that process as well.
Okay, interesting. Just in terms of that team dispersity, so you will have had some remote workers across the business already, I imagine.
Yeah.
How did you find that shift in the practicalities of everyone working from home, both on and offshore, frankly?
Yeah, so our support team are largely based in Manila.
Right.
And we fortunately sort of got a jump on it and thought we might want to send everybody home a little bit earlier.
Okay.
So people went back home and got settled and set up their internet. We sent laptops where we needed to, and also sort of set expectation with family. Suddenly you've got a family member that you want to spend time with and they're at home with you, but they do need to be at work and all of those things.
Yeah.
Our team...
That balance is hard though, right?
It's
difficult to communicate to a 12-month-old that mummy's at work now.
I know. One moment. But the thing that I did learn was a lot about how to do Zumba on Zoom.
Okay.
Actually, check it out on our Vimeo channel.
Okay. We will do that.
The team had a great time, and I think through that period of uncertainty, it was great to have some light relief.
Yeah, and we've spoken to a lot of customers about that, and there seems to be this balance and need for how do you maintain the culture and the emotional connectedness of a team who are used to working together every day, and how do you balance that with, as a business, ensuring that productivity is maintained, that SLAs to customers are upheld, that all of the things that you'd expect to go on as workflows move around a physical office can still happen in that virtual space?
Yeah, I think all brands actually will have to find digital replacements for this. I mean, we work with craft fairs and all sorts of in-person events, and a lot of those companies have pivoted.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen amazing stories of our own customers pivoting, instead of making gin, Wild Spirit made hand sanitizer, and what was a Sydney operation is now national, which is pretty incredible. We saw a Milner who, I think she was planning on having to let go of 12 of her staff. Her key events are weddings and Melbourne Cup. Right. So suddenly she started making PPE and had a whole different approach.
You just have to pivot. So is there anything from a Sendle perspective that is a business initiative that you have now that you didn't have before as a result of that changing environment?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing we did was create the Sendler rights. So it's kind of like a manifesto of our commitment to our customers. Huh. I think through this time of so much uncertainty, we thought, what can we actually offer that people can really hold on to and know is going to stay true for them? And it was this idea of taking, our price guarantee, our pickup guarantee, guarantees around our warranty and cover, and providing them all in one place, all with SLAs around them and all with our commitments.
Right.
And that created a level of consistency and certainty for our support team internally, but it also provided that for the customer, where kind of everything else was so uncertain.
Yeah.
They had this one thing to rely on.
And back to the ethos, focus and approach.
Yeah.
Has there been areas of your technology stack that have helped you and supported you in that innovation? Are there things that have surprised you about what you were maybe underutilising across the business to help you change?
Yeah, I think probably a lot of people found this, that we took on risks that we may not have done. Were sort of pushed and were pleasantly surprised in a lot of cases. AnswerBot was one of the things that we were looking at.
Okay.
And we're not quite sure whether we wanted to go down that pathway, but it was incredibly successful, particularly as an assistance while people were waiting for responses and while people were held up or wanting to know more about.
You found that helpful. And probably for the audience that aren't familiar with what AnswerBot is, it's a part of the Zendesk technology that builds AI back into the back end of your chat functionality, and so it will try and help your customer with that first line response before it gets shifted to an agent to do some human intervention. And so that was something you found helpful, and the customers were responding well to that?
We found mixed results early on, but over time
it's got to learn, right? Yeah.
It's got to learn, and we've pivoted and we've refined the usage, and now we're getting pretty happy with it.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
The other thing we did was we built kind of tools for the customer to self-serve with. And we released those. So things like if you want to launch an investigation to find your parcel or make a change to your parcel's direction, you can do that directly in the site of your own accord.
Right, okay.
And rolling out a lot of those things has been super helpful for us.
And self-service is so pivotal in the space where people have a disruption to their own personal lives now, and their structure has changed, being able to do it when you want it. And not when the company happens to be available becomes really important.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's got all sorts of time schedules now as well with working from home.
Well, right, balance is the new hit word, right?
That's it.
Have you found a shift in your NPS as a result of giving those customers a little bit more of a self-service in terms of being able to create those requests on demand when they need to, or through the AI functionality, try and get those answers back in a bit more of a real-time manner?
Yeah, I don't know if I can point to exactly NPS having changes, but I mean, we talk to customers a lot. I think this is back to the 100 customers that love you idea, right. Going and getting feedback and seeing how that's being responded to. I think, look, the tools in the areas that they work very well. I think there's just more that we need to continue to build. Look, I think technology is fantastic until you need additional personalization. Yes. And that's just where we continue to work. But it's a
constant relationship, right? Exactly. There's your tech stack and how you enable the business from a digital perspective, and then there's the heart, the soul, the ethos, the people.
Sure.
From your perspective in terms of actually delivering that out to the customers.
Yeah.
I'd be super curious, what's the one question you get most from customers? And how do you handle it?
I mean, I think in all retail and all logistics, it is, where is my parcel?
Where's my parcel?
Which WIMP, so we call it a WIMP internally, which is a cute little name. But the investigation that we have created, part of it's in that tool that the customer can go and self-serve. If the parcel is arriving, say, a day later than the ETA, they can launch an investigation of their own accord. It's a complicated problem actually, because it often involves our carrier partner,
right,
the sender and the receiver, our support backend, and sometimes our insurance and sometimes other comms platforms.
Yeah.
So you do require quite a lot of technology and quite a lot of different departments around the organisation.
Yeah, because there's also, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the back end, it may not be on that one truck from point A to point B. There might be several points.
That's right.
Through that process, and that's the value of Sendle, right?
Yeah, we sort of have we have the pickup process, which might be one carrier, and then there's sort of line haul A to B, which is another, and then there could be a third one that's actually doing the drop off. So there are intersections at various points along the journey. And for the most part, we've built brilliant technology that follows that along. But
yeah,
things do go wrong.
Things do go wrong. That's life.
Yes.
I'd be super curious. We've talked earlier and in the past around fostering that sense of community and having that brand purpose being central to your response. I'd love to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there was a day in March when we had double the first-time senders that we'd ever had. So literally all of those new businesses kind of came to us all of a sudden. And we'd long talked about, doing community meetups and do we want to do them on Zoom? And it was actually our customers that came to us and said, look, we want to understand this. Can we all get on a webinar and can we have an expert come and speak to us about how to get started and what is brand identity and all of the rest of that. So, and we ran the first one in the States out of Seattle.
Okay.
And it was tremendous. We got great response. And I figure that hopefully when those people are actually able to come together and meet in person, we're just going to have this incredible bond and incredible connection and feedback loop that's going around on those topics.
And I think every company is going to be grappling with how do I replace that face-to-face element that I had? How do you create a digital community versus our traditional sense of the word community? What advice would you have for companies as they start thinking about how do I get to my customer in new ways? Yeah,
well, I tell you what, the people who solve it are going to be the winners in all of this, right? I think people are looking for trusted advisors.
Okay.
I think particularly through COVID, nobody really knew who to trust. Like the experts that came out were maybe not some of the people that we expected, right? And I think that sentiment around what where do I get advice and who can I trust is actually the thing that people, that brands do carry. And so if your brand has something that they're a real expert in, how can you make that information transparent? How can you share that with your customers and create pathways to share that you can't find elsewhere?
Interesting. We talked earlier about your dual capacity in CMO, CCO. Have you found hearing the voice of the customer changes the way you think about your voice to the customer?
Very much so. I think I dwell on it a lot. Other companies talk about having a seat for the customer at the table, right? Yes. And that idea. I think, sometimes the customer at that seat in the table of a business meeting is not the one you need. But I think always having in your mind that they're there is so important.
Customer first.
Absolutely, customer first. And I think I've also thought a lot about, love versus like, and how do you create a product that people truly love, and how are you providing them value? I mean, we think about this idea of shipping is something that costs you money.
Yes.
But how do you make shipping something that adds value to you? How could you completely flip that model? And what are some of the ways that we can do that for our customers?
That's so interesting.
And of course, our customer's customer, so the small business who is having folks buy things from them, is actually our customer too. And so how do we provide additional value for them? And I think carbon neutrality is one of the huge ways that we're able to do that. Folks who have ethically sourced their materials and thought about their whole production,
right?
And then at the last mile can also ship carbon neutrally. That's one of the great ways that we can add value.
Absolutely. And their customer's customer would find value in that sustainability element.
Completely. That's often the reason they've chosen that small business.
Correct.
So
it's interesting thinking about the reason that they're in existence as a small business, and how do you add value and add on to that premise as well.
Yeah,
it's a complicated thing to do.
It is.
It is.
But I think, look, a lot of businesses in the logistics industry have not spent a lot of time in their technology and have not been thinking a lot about this. So it's a good opportunity for us.
Well, you bring an emotional element into quite a unemotional process.
Very much so.
Yes,
yeah.
A box is a box is a box until it's my box, and I would like that now,
and
please.
Then, yes, and the delight of what's in it.
Yes.
It's interesting, right? I mean, Amazon Prime solved this, of course, because they removed the payment of the shipping from the shopping itself,
yes.
right? And so those two things are disparate, and so the shopping can be joy.
The shopping is just the process,
and the shipping is something you pay for, but you don't think about.
Correct. Interesting.
Yeah.
Pivoting a little, I'd just be super curious from your personal, professional perspective. What are some of the lessons learned over the last couple of months? What will you take with you from this experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us are reconsidering the office space first of all, and thinking about the balance. What do we really get from being together? What do we really get from a productivity side of being apart? And remodeling and redesigning the new office. We surveyed our team recently to say, what did you love? What did you hate? How could we, create a new space for you that allows you to thrive? And we continue to design that right now. I think the webinar and the Zoom call with the customer will continue, absolutely.
I think so.
I think that level of connection and that ease of connection, the removal of having to travel to a conference, I think all of those things are so powerful and bring our teams together.
Yes.
And I think, I suppose the breaking down barriers from a partnerships point of view and also from a risk-taking of a new idea point of view that we've seen through COVID, to me says, be bold, try all these things.
Be bold, keep going.
Keep going. There's type 1 and type 2 decisions, and if it's a type 2, just take it and see what comes of it, and that'll certainly enable your teams as well.
Yeah, fascinating. It's actually quite fascinating. If you fast forward sort of 12 months, and I know that's difficult in all of our minds. I don't know. But are there plans and goals for Sendle now in terms of your customer strategy that if in 12 months' time, sort of turn around and patted yourself on the back and everything gone well, what's happening for Sendle at that point? What are you striving for now?
Yeah, I mean, number one is personalization. So how do we really build a beautiful picture of who this customer is, what they need, what their emotional need is, as well as how we can solve a pain point for them, and almost have kind of an emotional radar for our support team to understand. So they'll understand the history of what the customer's been through, how much they are informed in terms of onboarding, what their experience is as a small business. All of those things really wrap up to give us a new picture of who this person is and how we should interact with them.
So that's sort of that single pane of glass, 360,
idea.
Know your customer concept. How do you grapple with that in your mind, of that personalisation, that 360 view of the customer, and also while still having a business mind of efficiency, automation, speed, agility, all of those things? Where do you see them merging in the middle?
Well, I think in surveys we've done, self-service is actually what the customer wants, right? Yeah. And I think that you can self-serve in a way that's dynamic, and so therefore is appropriate to that customer, but also allows them to go off and do whatever they need to do. Our challenge is, using AI or machine learning to work out how we build that and build that better. And I think in 12 months, hopefully, we'll see some interesting results in the work that we're doing.
Yeah. Do you go through a process of engage? And you talked earlier about the customer and the seat at the table. Will you go through a process of opening up some of those new ideas to some of your customers for that feedback? How do you develop that?
Yeah, so customer insights team, I think, is the biggest way to do that.
Yeah.
But I think in talking to some of the folks that built a 7-day network for the States, customers didn't believe that they wanted delivery on Sunday. So I think you have to spend a lot of time with that focus group but you also have to think of what they might want that they don't actually know they want yet.
Right.
And of course we want delivery on Sunday, right?
Right.
As it turns out. You've got a party that night.
Yeah. If you can deliver my parcel, I will accept it.
Exactly.
I think lastly, if there was one thing that you would like people listening to take away from our session today, what would that be in your mind?
Look, I think post-COVID, more than ever, people are looking for hope and optimism and connection. And so I do go back to my idea of the 100 lovers of your brand. And how do you really just talk to them and understand them? Because I think the brands that do that are able to do so digitally and successfully will have every success.
I think that's it's both practical and profound. Keep the customers you have happy. Worry about those versus the qualitative and quantitative element. And so thank you so much. That's actually all we have time for today. So thank you so much for just coming and sharing around your CX sort of experience and insights. Thank you to everyone who has dialed in or is watching this on demand. Thank you very much for your time.